In today's video, the forces of humanity battle the undead legions for control of rare power crystals as we play our first on-screen game of Age of Fantasy Skirmish from one-page rules. Well, hi folks, and welcome to the channel. I'm Lee, your old hammered host. Today we're going to play a quick game of Age of Fantasy Skirmish from one-page rules. As the name implies, this is the skirmish version of their larger Age of Fantasy game. And if you're already familiar with Grimdark Future Firefight, then Age of Fantasy Skirmish should be really easy to pick up because it is essentially the same game, it just has a fantasy theme instead of a sci-fi theme. So a couple things I really like about Age of Fantasy Skirmish is the game is easy to learn and easy to teach, and also you can build your forces on the free Army Forge Army Builder app, which means I don't have to write everything up in a spreadsheet. So the scenario I'm going to show you today is a very quick game I wrote up for a game night at one of our friendly local game stores. Shout out to Heart of Gold Games in Longmont, Colorado. Woot woot. And since I already had the army list written up and I had plucked out the miniatures from the collection, I thought, hey, we'll play it for the channel and just see how it goes. So this is a pretty simple grab the treasure scenario. So you might notice that there are 3 sets of power crystals growing here in the Twilight Forest. And of course, there are 2 opposing expeditionary forces that have been sent into the forest to try to collect those crystals. And I should mention that all the figures from both sides today are old Confrontation Age of Ragnarok minis. And I think these work great for game nights because they're semi-durable, the paint isn't going to rub off, and if one of them gets destroyed in some kind of mishap, a little super glue will probably repair the damage. Okay, so the noble humans, they are led by Melchion, the sorcerer. He has 4 sets of infantry, and these guys have been upgraded to have spears, so that gives him the phalanx defensive ability. He's also supported by 2 elite swordsmen. These are independent units, so they run around the battlefield on their own. And finally, 3 marksmen with their prototype gunpowder weapons. So that gives Melchion a total of 8 units to try to secure the objectives with. So he's going to have 2 more units than his opposition. Trying to thwart Melchion's efforts is this mob of shambling reanimated dead, led by the dread Necromancer Egen de Vanth. So she has managed to assemble 3 units of undead warriors, plus the Great Skull, so he is another hero. And she also has a werewolf ally. So her army is a little bit smaller. They only have 6 units compared to the humans' 8. But she essentially has 3 heroes, these 3 here, to the humans' 1. They only have the wizard. And all these heroes have toughness 3, so they have 3 hit points essentially. So both the humans and the reanimates are going to attempt to acquire these power crystals, and whichever team has the most crystals by turn 4 will be the winner. To seize a crystal, a unit must be within 3 inches of it at the end of the round, and it needs to be uncontested, that is, no enemy units within 3 inches. If they are successful in doing so, they can seize the crystal, though if they become stunned or killed sometime in the future, then that crystal drops where it is, and someone else can attempt to seize it. Okay, so I've already rolled randomly to determine which team goes on which side. The humans will be on this side, and the undead will be on the other. So I'm going to take a few minutes off camera and set all the units up, and then we'll get into turn 1 and play some Age of Fantasy Skirmish from one-page rules. Okay, the 2 teams are all set up. Over in this corner is a squad of reanimates. Here's another squad of reanimates. Here is the fearsome Necromancer, another unit of reanimates, and the Great Skull. And here is the werewolf. He had scout, so he could deploy way up toward midfield. He is already near a crystal. So one thing the undead are going to have to contend with is they have fewer units overall. They have 6 units to the humans' 8, but they have 3 hero types between the Necromancer, the Great Skull, and the werewolf. Over in the human deployment zone, the Fusiliers have set up in this corner, and they're within sight of a crystal. To the right of them is a 3-man unit of spearmen. Here is an elite swordsman. He's going to help protect the wizard. Here is the wizard. 2 squads of spearmen, and because they paid extra to have spears, they have the special ability phalanx, which means if somebody's charging them, they might get pincushioned on the spears before they can even close. Now, I think in regular Age of Fantasy, you can combine units into a giant blob, but not so much in Age of Fantasy Skirmish. So I couldn't make a unit of 6 spearmen, so there is 2 units of 3. And on this side, here is another elite swordsman and another unit of spearmen. Okay, we'll start by rolling for initiative to see who activates first. The undead will be green and the humans will be red. Okay, the humans have initiative. Okay, for the humans' first activation, they are going to rush up toward this crystal. This particular crystal is closer to their line, so they can reach it in a single rush. And they're going to line themselves up to perhaps shoot at some undead down the line. So there they are, they have activated, and the range on their weapons is 18 inches. Next, the Necromancer is going to go. She has a variety of spells she can cast, but she needs to be in range. So for right now, she is going to move up next to the crystal. Next, this unit of spearmen is going to rush up about 12 inches. Maybe hide behind this rock for a little cover, I guess. So that's them right there. They are a bit nervous because they know there's a Necromancer around, as well as some moldering undead. This unit of skeletons is going to rush up their full 12 and put some pressure on the Fusiliers, because why not? Over here, this unit of spearmen is going to move up this way and try to contest the crystal if they can. So they are going to march through the Twilight Forest and confront the werewolf. So that puts them about there, contesting the crystal, so the werewolf can't seize it. Of course, the Great Skull doesn't care for that, so he's going to activate and move toward the crystal as well. So that puts him about there. So that is the Great Skull. Now the humans get to activate. This swordsman is going to rush up to the rocks. He's a pretty good fighter, but he only has 1 wound, so he is kind of a glass cannon. Next, this unit of skeletons here is going to rush their full movement. Might as well just get the party started, plus this allows them to support the Necromancer. Next, this unit of spearmen is going to march that way, a full 12 inches. So that takes them up to about there. Marching up the middle. So the spearmen are bravely marching toward their undead enemy. There are a lot of spearmen on the board, but the humans do not have as many heroes. And finally, the last unit of undead to activate in round 1 is this group of skeletons. They're going to move up their full 12. So about like that. So they move up as well. So as you can see, the center of the board is filling up quickly, so round 2 is likely to be bloody. So actually, I made an error. The undead will have 1 more unit to activate, and that is the werewolf. He's so far up because he forward deployed. He has scouts, so he got to deploy about midfield, but he still gets to activate in round 1, and he'll do so in just a minute. But before that happens, this unit of spearmen will march up this way, kind of like so. So they too are going to find their destiny in the center of the board. Now, since the werewolf hasn't activated yet, he can charge this group of spearmen and try to clear them out so that the undead can seize this objective at the end of round 1. He will face a phalanx of spears, though, so he might get pin-cushioned, shish-kebabbed, as it were, before he closes the distance. But we'll just have to see. So he is going to charge the spearmen. So he has to roll 3 dice. If he gets any 1s, each 1 is an automatic wound, though the werewolf does have 3 wounds to start with. So he doesn't want any 1s. And he got 1, so that is an automatic wound. So the werewolf starts out by taking 1 wound. However, he gets 4 attacks with a quality of 3+, so this could be brutal. So 2 hits. The spearmen have a defense of 5+. And they only block 1, so 1 spearman is killed. So 1 spearman is destroyed. The remaining spearmen will fight back on a quality of 5+. No hits. And the werewolf backs up 1 inch. And both units get a fatigue marker for this round. So they're all fatigued. So the humans still have 2 units to activate this turn. That is this elite swordsman and Melchion the wizard. So I think Melchion is going to move up to the rock. So perhaps he can blast somebody with a spell on the next turn. And finally, this last elite swordsman is going to move 12 inches this way. which should put him right about there. So at the end of round 1, the Fusiliers are able to seize a crystal because the undead are not close enough to contest it yet. So the Fusiliers are carrying a crystal. And likewise back here, the Necromancer is going to seize this crystal because it is uncontested. So she has seized a crystal. The third crystal, however, is still contested, with the forces of the undead and humanity still fighting for possession. So that is the end of round 1, and now we go into round 2. And I think we're going to see some fisticuffs. So at the beginning of round 2, I think Melchion the Wizard is going to throw caution to the wind, hop up onto the rocks, and cast a spell on the Necromancer that he can see over here. So he's up here and she's down here, and he's going to try to zap her from his perch, though she will get some cover if it's applicable. So one of the most powerful spells in his arsenal is called Power Maw. He needs a 5+ to activate it, but if he does, the Necromancer will take 1 automatic hit, AP 4, and deadly 6. So he could potentially kill her in 1 blast if he's successful. If he isn't, it's just going to fizzle, and then she'll be able to counterattack on her turn and do something nasty. So it is a wizard duel, but he's going to go for it. All right, Melchion, no guts, no glory. So he needs a 5+, and he gets it. So he literally rolled the dice, gambling the fate of the world, and struck his nemesis with the most powerful spell he knows. The attack is AP 4, so she needs a 6 to block it. And unfortunately for her, she does not. So she takes 6 wounds off her total of 3 and has to roll on the wound chart. So rolling on the wound chart, adding 6. So that's 6 plus 2 is 8. So the Necromancer is removed from play and the power crystal is dropped. Good for you, Melchion. Nice shot. You dispatched your enemy. So he activated, and a mighty activation it was. So the humans took a chance in their first activation. Perhaps a safer choice would have been to have the Fusiliers and their crystal back up out of charging range of the skeletons, but they did not do that, so the skeletons are going to charge them. You're supposed to get as many people as you can in base to base, so just use your imagination. It's a big brouhaha up here on the rocks. So 3 skeletons attacking the Fusiliers. Quality of 5+. 2 hits. The marksmen defend on a 5+. And they don't, so 2 are killed. So 2 marksmen are dispatched by the skeleton horde. Only 1 remains. He's going to fight back. And he doesn't hit anything. So the skeletons back up 1 inch, about like that. And everyone gets a fatigue marker, though the Fusilier is still hanging on to his crystal. So the undead lost their Necromancer, but they still have a werewolf and a great skull, and the werewolf is going to charge these spearmen, ignoring their pointy sticks. So he needs to roll for phalanx. Doesn't want a 1, he gets 1/1. So he takes another wound, charging in. That's got to hurt. Gets 4 attacks, hitting on a 4+. 2 hits. The spearmen defend on a 5+. 2 1s. So even though they wounded the werewolf when he charged in, they are both ultimately killed in the onslaught. So far the undead have killed 3 spearmen and 2 Fusiliers, and the human forces have killed 1 Necromancer. Okay, I think this elite swordsman here is going to charge the werewolf and try to polish him off. Like I said, he's kind of a glass cannon, so he has pretty good offense, but only 1 hit point. So he better make his attack count. So he gets just 1 attack, but it's quality of 4+ and AP 2, so he might do something here. Hits! He hits. AP 2, so the werewolf needs a 6 to defend. He does not do it. And actually, because he was fatigued, he'd need to roll a 6 on defense anyway. But regardless, he takes his final wound. Rolls on the wound chart. 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is enough to dispatch him. So the werewolf is removed from the mortal realm. Good job, swordsman. Nice stabbing. So the undead horde has taken a few blows here, but let's see if they can redeem themselves. So I think the great skull here is going to take a horrible revenge on behalf of the werewolf and hack down this swordsman, who now is defending on a 6 because he's fatigued. Okay, so the Great Skull gets 3 attacks normally, plus 1 additional one when he charges, and his quality is 3+. So 4 attacks, AP 1, 3+ to hit. 2 hits off the poor swordsman. The swordsman needs 6s to defend. So the swordsman blocks 1 hit, but the other goes through, so he takes a wound. Rolls on the wound chart and is killed. Cleaved in half by the mighty Great Skull. But the swordsman is still a hero, though, because he hunted down and killed a werewolf. A wounded werewolf, but a werewolf nonetheless. So now the Great Skull is fatigued, but he is in proximity of this crystal, so if no humans show up, he'll be able to seize it at the end of the round. And speaking of pesky humans, these spearmen are going to charge the Great Skull while he's fatigued, because that might be their best chance to do something. So they charge in. He whirls around to defend himself, but he is a little fatigued. So that's 3 spear attacks on a 5+. 1 hit. Great Skull normally defends on a 3+, but because he's fatigued, it's now a 6. So he takes a wound. Great Skull takes a wound. He's going to attack back, though. 3 attacks, quality of 3+. 3 hits on the poor little spearman. AP 1s, they defend on a 6+. They block 2, but 1 spearman is killed. That's better than I expected, though. So 1 spearman is destroyed, but 2 still remain. So they back up 1 inch. They become fatigued, and they have activated, but they are holding their own. All right, now the undead get to activate. I think these 3 skeletons right here are going to rush up and attack the wizard. So just imagine they have clambered up the rock. They are charging the wizard. Melchion killed their Necromancer, so now they're going to take a horrible revenge. Let's see if he can defend himself. Skeletons attack the wizard with 5+, 3 attacks. No hits. No hits at all. 4 skeletons. The wizard gets 3 attacks in return. He's kind of like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. And no hits. So not quite like Gandalf. So the skeletons back up 1 inch. Just use your imagination. And everybody is fatigued. Okay, so the swordsman here feels like the wizard can probably handle things. And so the swordsman is going to go this way and attack the Great Skull. The swordsman charges in to do battle with the Great Skull, who is fatigued. So the swordsman gets 1 attack, quality of 4+. He hits. Great Skull is fatigued, so he defends on a 6. And he does. He blocks it. The Great Skull fights back. 3 attacks, quality 3+. 2 hits, AP 1. The swordsman has a defense of 4+, though, so that's not bad. So now he needs a 5+. And doesn't block either of them, so he takes 2 wounds. Rolls on the wound chart. And he is cleaved in half. He was trying to be the hero, but it didn't work out for him. So he is cleaved in half by the Great Skull. So right now on the scoreboard, the undead have killed 4 spearmen, 2 fusiliers, 2 swordsmen, and the humans have killed 1 necromancer and 1 werewolf. So actually the undead have lost 2 units, and the humans have lost 3. So if either team loses 1 more unit, then they need to make some morale checks. So with that in mind, this fusilier is going to run. He's going to take his crystal and try to get away from those skeletons. So he is going to move back as far as he can and get out of charge range. So now he's way back here, but he needed to do that because if some other unit charged in and killed him, then he would drop the crystal and the whole human army would need to make a morale check. Okay, so who's left? There is a unit of spearmen here, another unit of spearmen here, and a unit of undead who have not activated, but it is the undead's turn, so they are up. So this unit of undead here are going to scramble up the rock face and attack the wizard. So just for the sake of the story, we're going to assume they can do that. It's kind of hard to make them fit, but they are kind of clinging to the rock face, and they're going to attack the wizard. So they're climbing up and attacking his ankles. So Melchion is on a rock that is swarming with undead. So 3 skeletons hitting on a 5+. No hits. Melchion fights back, hitting on a 5+ as well, and no hits. So the skeletons here all back up 1 inch. Take a fatigue marker. Melchion was already fatigued. On the human's turn, this unit of spearmen here, who still have their wits about them, are going to rush over here and try to seize the crystal. So if it's uncontested at the end of the round, they will have seized it. And this unit of spearmen here is going to try to rescue Melchion. So they're going to rush over here and stab these skeletons. So 3 attacks hitting on a 5+. No hits. Skeletons fight back. And they get 2 hits on the spearmen, who defend on a 5+ and do not. So that was an ill-fated attack. So 2 spearmen are killed in the attack on the skeletons. Those skeletons have luck on their side, and actually the undead are resistant to morale rolls too. So if it comes down to that, they're going to have an advantage. And I think that's everybody. I think that's everybody who can move in round 2. So at the end of the round, there is a full-strength skeleton horde right here. The last of the Fusiliers is way back here. He has a crystal with him, though. There is a horde of skeletons here and back here, all trying to get to the wizard. There was a rescue mission, but it was a dismal failure, so only 1 spearman remains. And again, if he is killed, then all the humans are going to have to make a morale check. Over here, though, if we measure it, I think the Great Skull has taken possession of this crystal because those humans are not close enough to contest it. So he actually grabbed a crystal. Then back here, an enterprising squad of spearmen has recovered this crystal, which was formerly held by the Necromancer. Okay, going into round 3, this is probably going to be the last round. Okay, at the top of round 3, this spearman here is going to run because he does not want to get killed and make the human army make a morale check. So he is going to escape if he can and hope he's out of range of everybody. I think he is. Now the undead get to go, and they can still pull this out. So these 3 skeletons here are going to break off from the wizard and charge these spearmen over here. So the spearmen were worried about the Great Skull, but they are attacked by a skeleton horde. 3 attacks from the skeletons, hitting on a 5+. No hits. That's good for the humans. 2 spearmen fight back. 1 hit on the skellies, defending on a 5+, and they don't block it. So 1 skeleton is killed, but everybody's fatigued, which is not good for the humans. So the big problem here is the Great Skull could then probably sweep in and kill these guys on the undead activation, making the humans take a morale check. But we have the wizard up here, and so he's going to try to pull another rabbit out of his hat and attack the Great Skull with some kind of spell. Probably the same one he used on the Necromancer, though he's going to need some luck to pull it off. So the wizard is up here. He's going to cast a spell on the Great Skull, Power Maw, but he needs a 5+ to do it. Come on, Mr. Wizard. Yes! He's a good wizard. So Melchion hits the Great Skull with Power Maw. It's AP1, so the Great Skull defends on a 6. He does not. Almost. He almost shrugs it off. Rolls on the wound chart, adds 6. 3 + 6 is 9. That's enough to dispatch the Great Skull back to the Netherworld from whence he came, so he's out of there. So now the undead get to go, and I think they're going to try to attack these spearmen over here and try to force a morale check at the end of the round. Plus, they will contest that crystal. So 3 skeletons attacking on a 5+. No hits. The spearmen will fight back, hitting on a 5+. 1 hit on the skeletons, defending on a 5+. And no. So 1 skeleton is killed. 1 goes away. I think on their activation, these spearmen are going to run. So they're going to run away for the good of humanity, so humanity doesn't have to make a morale check. So I think the only undead left to activate are these skeletons here, and they can't quite get to any adversaries, so they're going to move this way. Moving up on their bony legs. They can see the enemy, they can't quite reach him though. And finally, these guys, they haven't moved yet. They're going to kind of run over this way as far as they can with their crystal. So that puts them about here with crystal in hand. And I think that's the end of round 3. Okay, so at the end of round 3, the undead control 1 crystal right here. The humans have 1 crystal back here, and another one over here in the hand of the Fusilier. So we could go into round 4, but looking at the table, I don't think there's any way for the undead to acquire another crystal, as long as the humans keep their distance. So we'll just say the game ends here with a hard-fought human victory. So at the end of the game, the undead have 3 units left. They are all skeletons who have proven to be amazingly resilient. And all the undead monsters got killed. The Necromancer, the Great Skull, and the Werewolf were all killed. And the humans are down to 1 Fusilier, the mighty wizard Melchion. He's the game's MVP. A unit of 2 spearmen and a full-strength unit of 3 spearmen. So they were pretty badly mauled, but they did squeak out a victory, 2 crystals to 1. So, thanks very much for stopping by, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, or even if you didn't, please leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think, and that'll give us some feedback for future productions. We'll be back soon with more battle reports and other good stuff, but until then, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.